Welcome to MadMat.
Nice to be on your show. It's always nice to have the other cameras on the other angles switched. Anyway, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, we're changing this. We're changing
yes,
the
it's
tables
nice to be
around.
on the other side of the table.
Right. So if I'm brand new to all of this material,
I say forget it.
where do I jump in? I've stumbled upon Newrealities.
Okay.
I open up a program, I see what's there, I'm kind of pulled in, I don't know what it is, it might seem a little weird, but yet I want to go further, but I'm in the deep water.
No, that is
Where's the baby pool?
Thank you. No, that is a great question. That is a great question. First of all, I don't think I cater to the baby pool crowd. I mean, I think if you're already in, I mean, I should maybe.
No diapers allowed.
Right. No baby pool. You have to know how to swim if you're going to jump in the water. No, because there's so many other people introducing people to Reiki and chakras, and that's okay. I probably should do that, but if you want to go deeper into what's the purpose of incarnation, how can you access your soul's true essence, or what are the ETs really saying, or so, I mean, it's okay to jump. I mean, I guess the first step I'm saying is you have to know that you're more than just your body. That's your entrance into, like, if you don't know that, do not tune into this website. This is not for you. This may
shock you out of
your paradigm, your belief system. Don't if your belief system does not include this, it might self-destruct.
Okay.
No, but that's a really good question. So where do you get started? I think for everyone who's opening to a spiritual path, because people are waking up every day and saying, well, I think there's something more. There's more here than my religion, my education, my government, my media. I know there's more to me than I've been told by all the levels of conditioned society. How do I find that? How do I find the true sense of my essence? And then that's all you need to tune into Newrealities. It is, because it's just inquiring. It's just, I want to know if there's more. That's how I started. I'm sure that's how you started. I knew there was something more. I didn't know what that was, but then I did. I saw Ramtha and like, boom. I think part of this new paradigm is developing a sensitivity to energy and to vibration. And that's what we have to open up, the new neurological software of our brains, to start to tune ourselves to the sensitivity that we can feel.
You're really specifically talking about the brain as opposed to the mind.
Well, the brain, mind, and consciousness. The mind is, so you have the brain. The mind is what is made accessible. It's by the brain. The mind is how the personality uses the brain to think. That's the mind, or what Bashar would call the physical mind. What also exists is consciousness. So I explain it like you have the hardware, you have the software. So you have the hardware of your computer, right?
Sure.
You have the software, the programs on your computer. That's the mind. But what's missing? You have hardware and software. What do you need to operate the computer?
A user.
Exactly. The user is consciousness. The user is the spirit, let's say. The user is that aspect that is the observer that exists beyond the software and hardware, right? You exist beyond your software and hardware. You just use that. So you're picking up the vehicle of the hardware and software. What? You're making a face.
I mean, I think mind is local and non-local. Consciousness is non-local. Right?
Yeah, the mind. I mean, we could define it any way we want.
I'm just trying to understand.
No, the mind can be seen as non-local. I would call the mind more of a local thing, but I can understand how you say it. It's a non-local. I call the non-local mind consciousness, but maybe there's aspects to it. We're making it all up. We're making up these definitions because we're redefining a new paradigm that has yet to be expressed. It has yet to be cognized into this reality. We are now defining the next level of awareness in terms that don't have definitions. So that's the difference between recognition and cognition. You know what I mean? You know what recognition is?
Absolutely.
What is it?
Recognition is seeing something and understanding it.
Right. And
Well, cognition is the understanding. Recognition is the familiarization.
Right.
It's familiar to me.
Right. So, but we are now just in the phase of cognizing new realities. So we can
Making them conscious.
Yes, and then when they're conscious, they can be recognized for a larger population. So that's like my job is to cognize these realities so other people can recognize them and fit them into a bigger picture.
Nice.
You know, that's why like the paintings of Alex Gray is important, because people are having these experiences, but they don't have a context to put it in.
Right.
You know, I'll give you a really simple example of this. Did you ever go to like a wine taster, like a really fan?
Absolutely.
And you taste the wine, and you say, oh, that tastes like wine, big deal. And then they say, did you taste the fruitiness? Did you taste like the dryness?
Tobacco.
And then you say, wow, I did taste that, but I didn't recognize it until someone pointed it out.
Excellent.
It's that same thing. You don't recognize these levels of consciousness, these levels of awareness, until someone points it out and someone says, you know what? There was a voice talking to you. There really, really was. You have to accept it. It was just at a frequency that you couldn't understand. But as you access these higher realms, you are going to understand it. You're going to recognize it for what it is. So all of us are moving to a new dimension that way.
You know, some of this comes up in relationship to listening to the lectures of Bashar.
Yeah.
Lectures, I don't know if you call them that.
Bashar is a channel.
But Bashar, right, and he talks a lot about what's going to be happening, how things are going to be unfolding over the next 10, 15, 30 years. What do you see?
Well, Bashar, first of all, says he's an extraterrestrial from the future who's a contact specialist. So he says he's here being channeled through this person, Daryl Anka, to help all of us raise our frequency. So I think a lot of people have been in fear about ETs, extraterrestrials, but there's nothing to fear. You know, we see movies like Independence Day and just ridiculous things that are here to put us in fear.
Yeah.
Could you just describe a little bit where you put your mind before you actually go in there?
Well, again, at this point, all I really am doing is just relaxing in a way that just opens me up to whatever is going to connect. It's the best thing I can do is just describe it as a state of total trust. It's like you're putting yourself kind of in someone else's hands for a moment and just letting that energy take over the driver's seat. Yeah.
Fear sells, but the truth of meeting a cosmic intelligence is not about fear. It's about transcending fear. It's meaning that we are equal in a way to those that are coming to visit us. So I see, as people get familiar or used to the idea that, you know, we're not the lonely bastards of a lifeless universe, which means that there's creation everywhere. You know, this is not the only planet that life exists on. Life is abundant.
Right. Well, it's rather egotistical of us to think that we are.
It's like saying the Earth is the center of the universe. It's like, that will seem just as ridiculous, I would say, in 50, 100 years. As saying like
the Earth is flat,
or saying that it's the only place in the universe that has life. Well, is there life? So it's obvious to most people, most intelligent people, first of all, that water is abundant throughout the planet. And water is the elixir of life. Of course, there's other substances that are probably able to make life, but you know what sunspots are? It's water collecting on the sun. That's what a sunspot is. So there's water. If we're using water as the basis of life, water is abundant throughout the universe. That's what Emoto has said. That's what a lot of water scientists have said. So if life is abundant throughout the universe, how come we're not meeting it? It's because we've been ruled by dogma and conditions and religion and all the things that have kept us very limited in our thinking. If we start to expand our mind, we make contact through our minds. That's where contact is being made.
Well, people dismiss the things that they feel, you know, that are imagination, which is really the gateway for all of these magical, mystical, unnecessarily recognized events and experiences.
Right. The imagination is what's real. The imagination is the seeing the higher dimensions, you know. I think William Blake talked about the imagination being a form of perception, actually.
But you're right, it does have to be developed, because if you think back, probably in the beginning, you know, you didn't know what your gifts were. Maybe you were very young.
Yeah,
How old were you? What do you recall when you first started to recognize?
Well, I always had vivid dreams. What?
It
No,
had to be before Ramtha.
Yeah, no, I always had vivid dreams. Oh, I did have out-of-body experiences when I was young, like, you know, feeling pulled out of my body or floating above my body or different. And that was not explainable in any of the books I read. But then when I heard about out-of-body experiences, it's like, oh, that probably is what happened to me, you know, because I do think so. What did you ask?
Well, did you have a crystallizing moment, or was there a memory that you can remember when you were a child that you perceived energy, or you perceived that there was more than just the body?
Yeah, I remember. I think I was like 2 years old,
Tell
and
me.
I was running along like just like being a crazy little child, and I was about to hit this like not a wall, but this like wooden structure, and I just like stopped. And it's like, wow, I just stopped for no reason. I felt like it was like something bigger just stopped.
Stopped you?
Yeah, I felt there was like a connection to something bigger. And it just like all of a sudden, like, I had a moment of observing my own mind, being conscious of being conscious.
That's pretty cool at 2 years old.
At 2 years old, yeah, I did. I was like, well, I just stopped. Something just happened. I just went into this other reality. I just was aware of awareness.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that story?
Yes.
Yes.
We
And
should
like,
tell it. We should tell it.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you know, just really, you were at an event in
first of all,
1981, and
yeah, in 1981, you remember?
Ramtha came through and approached you specifically.
No, we said from
and
the
said-
audience. Well, first of all, I came from a really psychological background, so everything was like explainable in psychology, except like I found a tape of Ramtha. And there was a woman on the tape. Actually, I was introduced to Ramtha in 1979, but someone said, yeah, this woman from Washington is like this 35,000-year-old warrior, uses her body. And I said, no, that was too weird. My friend Bobby Faust, who introduced me, said. I said, no. So it took me 2 years to decide. Someone left me a tape, and and on the tape, this woman was asking Ramtha a question. And she said to Ramtha, you know, I have this really bad skin condition. I've tried all the doctors, all the medicine, everything. I don't know what to do anymore. And Ramtha says, have you tried loving it? And that just hit me. And then you could see there was like, even on the audio tape, there was like this sense of this stopping this woman in her tracks. And suddenly it's like everything just shifted in the whole questioning.
I love
And I said, wow, maybe this is really about love. Maybe these teachings are really about, and the first book that Ramtha came out with was Love Yourself into Life. So it's about love. It's about finding the God within and knowing that you're an essence of love, which is the basis of all teachings. That's the entranceway into Newrealities. So I went to an audience because I said, oh, well, this seems like it's based on love. And so about 100 people is in 1981 at an auditorium up on 73rd Street, Central Park West. Thomas Sharkey put that together, and he says to me, "What say you, beloved entity?" I'm sitting there in the audience, and I say, "Me? Are you talking to me?" Because it was like this amazing presence. This woman goes into a trance, and Jay-Z Knight, and this 35,000-year-old warrior, if you believe that, it totally changes the energy in the body. And so he said to me, "What say you, beloved entity? How be you this day in your time?" It's like Shakespeare, like Shakespearean. It's very dramatic, and he says, he says, "You are a most contented entity." And then I still don't realize he's actually talking to me or believe it. But then I tune in. In that moment, I tune in, and we sort of like gaze at each other, and then like the room sort of dissolves, and it's like I'm in an altered state, and it's like there was this like energetic awakening or embrace, and then in that moment I knew I was more than my body. It's like the essence. I always suspected it or had an idea, but then I was conditioned by the psychological paradigm that says, no, that's not possible. But in the moment of that awakening, I knew there was more to me. I knew I was more. I knew the energy and the consciousness that I was not just contained in the body. The body was the vehicle for that, but there was a greater sense of reality. And so that was the beginning of that. And everything I've done since was to sort of confirm that original experience.
Sounds like a tremendous paradigm shift for you at that moment.
Yes, that was an awakening. I mean, everyone has. What was your awakening? How did you get into this?
I want to thank Alan, and I want to thank my wonderful executive producer, Rick Mack, and I want to thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.